How can people be so blind? If you've ever thought that, you are not alone. The frustration is real. The challenge is real. The anxiety is real. If you know that your brand is ready for a refresh, a rebrand, whether that's the strategy, the messaging, or the visual identity, or all of it, and you cannot get senior leadership at your organization to see it, you are not alone. And in this video, we're going to talk about some of the reasons why senior leadership may not be able to see it, but we're also going to talk about 6 tactics you could take in order to help them see the light. And if you stick around for all through those, I'm going to offer a bonus one, which might seem a little unfair. It might even seem a little manipulative. So if you're ready, let's get started. Okay, you can't fix a problem if you don't know where it's coming from. You can't fix a leaky pipe, for example, if you don't know where the leak is. So here are some of the places where senior leadership might be distracted, or here might be some of the blinds that are in front of your senior leaders so that they can't see what you see. First off, they might be too far away. They might be so far removed from the day to day, they don't see how the brand is landing. They don't see what it's like to interview a prospective candidate. They are not on calls with clients and customer service. They aren't really seeing what the people on the ground see. And so here's where it's a great opportunity to show them what others have seen. And a great way to do that, for example, is through like a quick flash survey to your employees, to your colleagues. No more than 5 questions, maybe even smaller. Something like, can you confidently explain who we are? What are some of the misconceptions that you see out in the market? Little data points like that can do a lot to get someone's attention. Next is they might be afraid of what it says about them. They might be afraid that it impacts their reputation, that a refresh or rebrand means that they were asleep at the wheel, that they were not managing the business correctly. And of course, that's not true because all brands need to evolve at one point or another because people change, because interests change, needs change, everything changes. And so it's important to show them that, yeah, um, it's okay. It's not your fault. Next is they might think it's messy, particularly if they come from a background that's more scientific, that's more mathematical or medical. They might think of this as having a lot of emotional baggage, or there's a lot of soft skills involved here, which not everyone is comfortable with. They might think, oh, we're only going to talk about feelings, we're only going to talk about emotion, we're only going to talk about colors. And if that's the case, of course, they're not going to want to jump on board. And so here's where you talk about the process and what's involved and show that you know how to make this something that is not a heavy lift, whether that's from an emotional perspective or from a timing perspective. The next thing is they could be in the dark. They don't know what they don't know. And so it's important to make certain they do understand how important branding is to their entire operation. And sometimes they just need a little help. In fact, I'm working with a client right now, and we're working into the agreement that there are brand education primers, that we're doing a brand education primer with their senior leadership so that they can understand why it's important for them to move forward with this kind of work. You know what? There could also be some brand trauma at play. A lot of brands go very, very badly, and they can be emotionally exhausting. They can be financially exhausting. They can be tedious beyond belief. And so that sticks with us. So find out if they've had some sort of brand trauma about a previous brand refresh, and find out what it was and assure them that you're on top of it. You can help them get through this one without the same kind of trauma. And then finally, they could just be penny wise and pound foolish. Seeing the price tag of a brand refresh can be a little shocking sometimes, and not seeing an immediate ROI can also be a lot shocking. So here it's important to take some time and help them understand the economics of it. And we'll talk more about that in a second. If you're still with me, that's great. This would be a perfect time for you to subscribe hit the notifications because I really would like to be able to prove to my accountant that this is not a waste of time and money. So if you could do that, that would help me out quite a bit. Okay, if you're ready, here are 6 tactics that might work when you try to get your senior leadership to see what you see, to see that a brand refresh is absolutely necessary at this time. Start off by showing them some of the brands that they admire, whether that's a B2C brand that they use in their personal life or a professional brand that they respect. Talk to them about the brand refreshes that those companies have gone through and demonstrate that those brand refreshes have contributed to why they hold that brand in such high esteem. Next, make it competitive. No senior leader, no brand, no leader likes to see the competition doing better than they are on any front, particularly if those fronts have something to do with public opinion or with the bottom line. So here's a great place for a messaging audit. And I know I talk about them all the time, but it's for good reason because they're important and they work. Whether those are messaging audits that we do for you or that you do yourself. And in the episode notes, I will put a link to information about our messaging audit, but also I'll put a link to a fact sheet you can download that will guide you through the process of doing your own messaging audit. But the point is, a messaging audit can demonstrate if you line up your brand with all of your competitors, it can demonstrate where you're doing well and where you're not. More times than not, we find that even if our clients had once been a leader in a market, after time, eventually everybody catches up, and so they all sound alike. And that is, of course, the worst thing you'd want for your brand. You want to be different. You want to sound different. You want to be different. You want to be memorable. You want to be compelling. And so a messaging audit can demonstrate where you are not doing any of those things. Next, you want to point out the risks. A job of any senior manager is to manage risk. Not only how much risk you're willing to take in order to achieve a specific goal, but how do you mitigate risk from outside sources? How do you mitigate risks from inside the business? And so demonstrating what will happen if you do not refresh the brand down the road can be a great way to get their attention, to help them see what they are not seeing. Next, make sure you talk in their language, finance, especially if you're going to do the tactic I just talked about. Here are some stats that might help. Research from the Marketing Accountability Standards Board has found that brand contributes approximately 19% to enterprise value at B2C companies and about 10% even at B2B companies. That's not just a marketing number, that is a shareholder value number. Put that in front of your CFO and see how they react. Next, enter peer voices. Maybe there's somebody on your management team that has been through a successful a brand refresh. Have them talk to your stubborn leader about why they are necessary and how they can go well and how you can avoid any of the issues we talked about that might be holding your senior leader back. So enlist some peer support. And then finally, bring in a third party. I know that's revolutionary. Shocking that a brand consultant would say, bring in a brand consultant. But we really do add value, whether it's me or one of my contemporaries. We come in and we help back you up. We help you explain why a brand refresh is important. We help understand what their concerns are and help walk them through it. And we can demonstrate that there is a process that can be as efficient and effective as possible, even if you don't go with us or them or me or whomever. So bring in a third party of some sort to help your senior leader see what they cannot. All right. So I promised a bonus tactic, one that might be a little unfair, maybe even a little manipulative. I once had a CEO who, the minute he took over, wanted to update, wanted to change the brand because, in his mind, the brand was too closely aligned with his predecessor. And he was not down with that. Now, to be clear, that is absolutely, positively, no reason whatsoever to change your brand. However, if you can use that dynamic in your favor, you might want to consider it. So if you have a leader who is concerned about the impact he might have or she might have, the legacy they might leave behind when they do leave. You might want to suggest that the brand would be a great way to do that. Of course, you have to be very subtle about it. And yeah, give it a try. Remember, if your senior leadership is not behind your brand refresh, it will not work. It will not work. Don't even try. It will be a waste of time, energy, and money. All right, that's it for this episode. So let me know what I missed. Let me know what I got wrong. Let me know in the comments what resonated with you. I love to talk about this kind of stuff. And if you want to talk to me, there's a link in the show notes as well about how to get in touch with me. I hate doing a hard sell. I'm not even certain I'm capable of it. So if you connect with me, if we have a conversation, I assure you, it will not be one of those. All right, again, that's it for this time. So as always, make certain you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and tell all your friends. And of course, always, always stay on brand.